It being 2 o'clock, I'll go ahead and call the City of Florence Design Review Board meeting to order. We were all emailed the minutes of last month's meeting. Did everyone have a chance to review those?
I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That's all accepted. First order of hearing today is a request for a certificate of appropriateness to install signage at the parcel located at 615 South Dargan Street, tax map number 90088-08-003, residing in the D1 Residential Overlay District. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the Design Review Board. I recently talked to the applicant, and they decided to defer the case until next month.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear that one next month. Our next hearing is DRB case 2021-34, a request for a certificate of appropriateness to change out windows on a house located at 319 South McQueen Street, tax map number 90074-11-013, located in the D4 Timrod Park Overlay District. Okay, staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to install new windows in a house located at 319 South McQueen Street. The vicinity map identifies the parcel in the 300 block of South McQueen Street between West Palmetto Street and West Pine Street. The location map identifies the location address as 319 South McQueen Street. The current zoning map identifies the parcel as commercial reuse. Commercial reuse is intended to provide for low impact commercial uses that are in small scales. And these are site photos of the property. These are close-up pictures of the wooden windows. The exterior window casings holding up the wooden windows are dry rotted and decaying. And these are more site photos of the property. As you can see, everything that's in blue, the applicant currently changed it from wood windows to vinyl windows. I know in the staff report, the applicant, he was currently unaware that this property was in the Timrod Overlay District, so he decided to halt until Design Review Board looks at this further. So it's total is 19 windows, so he actually replaced 11 of the wooden windows with vinyl windows. According to the design guidelines, I'm just going to mention a few points. The historic and significant character of the property should be retained and preserved. The 11 wooden windows, 2 removable slashes, and a traditional pane 6/6 pane have been replaced with 11 vinyl windows. Although the materials differ, the appearance of the windows is similar, 6/6 pane. New additions and adjacent or related new construction should be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the original property and its environment will be unrepaired. All new additions that the applicant is proposing to the property could be replaced at a future date with other style windows. The proportions and relationship between doors and windows should be compatible with the architectural style and character of the building and surrounding buildings. The location of the windows is not changing. The materials are changing from wood to vinyl for the windows. When appropriate, the architectural details, color, materials, and textures should be compatible with the styles and character of surrounding buildings and structures. The vinyl window frame are the same styles and will be compatible to the previous and current wooden windows. The architectural materials remain white. And this concludes staff's report.
And I have questions of staff? Okay, hearing none. Is anyone here to speak on this matter?
I can just speak on. I was going to say that.
I'll come up here.
Come up here to the podium, Mike.
I was just gonna let the board know that as soon as we realized it wasn't historical or whatever the terminology is, we halted right then to get everything done correctly. And they are pretty much almost identical to the wood windows that have decayed and deteriorated through the years. And I just want to just add that, and they're really good windows.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone have any questions of Mike? Okay. I'd like to go ahead and close the hearing and put it to a vote, guys. Or a motion.
Motion to approve as is.
Who said that? I'm sorry. It's hard to tell who's speaking.
Motion to approve as is.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion carries.
I'm sorry, who seconded it? Okay, thank you. If you could
That's
raise your
right.
hand or something, so I can make sure it's in the next item. Thank you.
Hopefully next meeting you'll be able to see our smile. So. Our next case is public hearing DRB 2021-35, a request for a certificate of appropriateness to expand an accessory building located at 516 South Coit Street, tax map number 90088-06-015, located in the D1 redevelopment overlay district. Staff?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. So a choice to make is requesting to construct an addition to their existing rear building. This is for additional donated clothing storage, and they have it titled as Emmy Lou's Boutique. So here's the vicinity map. This is along South Coit Street. And it is in the commercial reuse zoning district as well as the redevelopment overlay district. So here are the site plans. As you can see, they have a 6-foot by 15-foot bathroom / closet that they would like to demolish before they put the 20-foot by 18-foot addition onto their rear building. You can see in the bottom picture, those are the existing conditions. You see that the little building that kind of juts out, that small little addition, that's what will be removed, and then sort of the artist rendering of what it will look like after the renovation. So in the CR district, they must meet the 5-foot side setback, which this project will accomplish that goal. Also, the maximum building height must be less than 27 feet. Here are some site photos. This is the front of a choice to make, and then you can see there's a little breezeway that connects the front building with the rear building. And it's this rear building where the addition will be installed, and it has a sign that says Emmy Lou's Boutique, a clothing store for donated clothes of expectant mothers. And again, there's the little addition on the back that will be demolished. As far as the design guidelines, the proposed new construction will use white vinyl siding consistent with the existing main and rear buildings. The proposed addition could be removed at any time, and it will revert back to its original form. The ordinance caps the height of the building at 27 feet. The front building is about 20 feet in height, and this one will be approximately 14 feet in height. So both of those will be in compliance with the Unified Development Ordinance. At this time, Emmy Lou's Boutique Addition will not include any additional windows or doors. And then the addition will be approximately 30 feet from the rear property line. It will be about a 20-foot extension of the existing rear building. And again, it will meet that 5-foot side setback in the CR district. The roof of the addition will also be covered with black asphalt shingles. So just consistently keeping all the materials that are in the present building on the new addition. And that does conclude staff's report.
Anyone have any questions of staff?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned twice that it complies with the side setback. Does it comply with the rear setback?
Yes, sir. It sure does. They will be about 30 feet from the rear, and the rear setback in the CR is 20 feet for this addition. Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, anyone here to speak on this matter? Okay, I'd like to go ahead and close this hearing. We'll open it up for discussion, guys. Or a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Our next case is DRB 2021-36, a request for a certificate of appropriateness to to construct an addition on a building located at 105 Worley Street, tax map number 90074-03-021, located in the D1 redevelopment overlay district. Staff?
All right, thank you, sir. This is for Hayden Dental Office. They would also like to add an addition onto their building on the west side of their existing building for additional workspace. So here's the vicinity map. It's at the corner of Worley Street and West Evans. It's actually not too far from where we're sitting right now. And it is in the commercial reuse zoning district, and again, the redevelopment overlay district. All right, so the setbacks for the CR for this addition, the side setbacks would be 5 feet and the rear would be 20 feet. So technically this construction would be to the rear of the building because it fronts on Worley Street. And then the Planning and Enabling Act of 1994 does give the Design Review Board the power to grant certain modifications to additions to construction within historic overlay districts. So that rear setback is what we're looking at that will need to be modified to make this project work. So here is a site plan. It is a 12-foot by 33.5-foot addition, totaling about 400 square feet. And that rear setback will need to be 6.5 feet. Right now the building is about 18.5 feet from the rear, so it's required to have 20 feet, and they're requesting 6.5 feet from the west side of the property line. And again, this is an aerial. It's kind of hard to see on the projection, but it's just kind of showing the same thing. Behind the building is an alleyway, a 15-foot alleyway, which kind of buffers it from the adjacent property owner. The city owns West Evans, and also I believe it comes out on Chevis Street on the other side, but as far as ownership of the alley, it's just something that private business owners have always had and utilized. So buildings in close proximity, because the building, most of its traffic is going to be seen from West Evans Street as opposed to Worley Street. You could very easily address this building off of West Evans or Worley Street. So we wanted to look at buildings close by that had similar side setbacks to just see if there was a precedence for a closeness to property lines. And we just pointed out some buildings in the very close vicinity that are closer or at 5 feet or 6.5 feet of what the applicant is requesting. So there is the precedence for it in the near area. Here's some site photos. This is the front of the building, which faces Worley Street. The north side of the building, you can see the driveway for West Evans Street in the background behind the freestanding sign. This is the parking lot facing towards Worley Street. And again, just a little bit closer view of that West Evans Street driveway entrance. They do have an entrance off Worley, and they have an entrance off West Evans Street. As part of this request, the addition will run into these 2 oak trees. So they're also requesting that these 2 oak trees be removed as part of the project. And so you can see behind the building, just a little bit closer look of the trees behind the building that will have to be taken out to make way for the addition. And here's the 15-foot alleyway to the west side of this building, which is between it and its closest neighbor to the west. As far as design guidelines, the addition will match the existing building. Blue brick facade, blue horizontal lap siding on the gable. The roof will be black asphalt shingles, and the addition will have a gable on that side, just like it does facing Worley Street. Let's see. And again, the height is capped at 27 feet. The proposed addition will be the same height as the existing building, and it will be less than 27 feet. At this time, there are no proposed additional windows or doors. The location of the addition will be to the back of the building, and it will be approximately 6.5 feet from the rear property line. In this zoning district, the rear setback is 20 feet, and the side setback is 5 feet. However, the Design Review Board has the ability to approve alternative site layout and conditions based upon this criteria. Properties in the vicinity along West Evans Street are overwhelmingly in close proximity to side property line. Interior lots along Worley Street have structures with compliant rear setbacks. The addition's height and width will be consistent with the present structure. And again, the 2 oak trees would have to be removed to accommodate the construction of the proposed addition. And that does conclude staff's report.
Anyone have any questions of staff?
Can you go back to the site plan that shows the alley?
Yes, sir. Let's see. There's a pretty good aerial
Yeah,
shot. Is that good?
So, who owns the alley?
By default, we don't want to say by default, but we own the street to the north and we maintain the street to the south. But
So it's not privately owned?
It's not privately owned. It's one of those alleyways that's existed since who knows when, that was likely used for garbage pickup, maybe coal delivery, things of that nature, back in the day. It does, a property, several years ago, a property south of there had to, I guess they had some storm damage and had to rebuild, and there was some inquiry into the alleyway, and when we looked at it, people use it. People use it for parking, people use it for access through there, so, there was no reason to abandon it in any way, because individuals along that use that for rear access to their property. So, but it's not been improved in many years or touched, and just kind of exists as it is.
And what is the width of the alley?
15 feet, yeah.
I guess my point is, if you want to sort of justify the reduction of the rear setback, in some ways you can use the 15 feet of alley as sort of no man's land. So it's not like you've got someone who you're encroaching on private property. So the 15 feet is sort of, to me, that's establishing separation. But since I've got 20 feet, I guess, is the kind of the ideal separation, but since in this case it's unique in that you have this public sort of non-private 15 feet, in some ways that could be sort of justified as you could almost borrow that dimension, add it to the 6.5, and there becomes over 20 feet between your building and the nearest property line. Does that make sense?
Right.
So to me, I can rationalize them infringing on this setback. I actually have more problem taking the trees down than I do with building that close to the alley.
Right. And when staff analyzed it from, visually, it takes its cues from the street right of way, mainly this addition from West Evans Street, and that's why we pointed out the setbacks along Evans Street. They were more appropriate from a design
Yeah,
standpoint.
there's tons of traffic.
But the obvious encroachment into these properties, but as you can see, the property right to the side of it's also jammed up against that side property line, so.
I had a different question, kind of getting to the same thing, but a different logic. The side being 5 feet versus the rear 20 feet, is that meant to be for, like, the property in question or the neighbor's property? Because, I mean, technically, it would be a side for their neighbor if you were worried about encroaching on them, because they face a different way.
That's
I didn't know if the 5 foot might be justified since it's on a corner piece, and their neighbor, it would be a side instead of a rear.
That's right. On corner lots, it does get a little tricky because, and when, from a zoning standpoint, you know, we have to approach it one way or the other. And the way we do that is how they take access, or, you know, where their main door is and where they're addressed from is how we typically look at it. So you have, every once in a while, you end up with an oddball case and you just kind of have to do the best you can. But for the most part, it's whichever side they take their address off of and their ingress, egress. If their front entrance door had been along Evans Street, then that would be their side setback, and this wouldn't come into question. So.
But yet, if they did that, then they would not have had the quote-unquote rear setback at the time of construction.
That's right. It would be tricky there, yes. So corner lots get a little tricky at times, but, and with existing buildings, we try to do the best we can, because sometimes people change that, but we typically work with them, within reason. Okay. Any other questions of staff?
Jerry, is this, have we ever been asked to, I mean, to me, it seems like this was a zoning board matter versus a design and review board matter.
Right.
Does one take precedence over the other? I just don't remember ever being asked to basically approve a zoning change.
We have
Okay.
before. This board has traditionally taken up, I guess, setback questions, and it's because the board is concerned with design and spacing of buildings and that sort, and character of the area. That's how the board can, I guess, take precedent over the zoning code. It's not allowed with use, you know, like if somebody wanted to open up a use that was not allowed in this location, the board doesn't have privy over that. But with site design and building layout, they do have some leeway with how buildings are sited on a particular piece of property.
Understood.
And Jerry, one last question. Is there room on the property for additional landscaping, or is it just pretty much asphalt?
I believe there is to the, I guess, the side of the property. If you're on Worley Street facing to the left side of the property, there's some green space along there. I believe there are some existing trees in some green space that wouldn't need to be removed. Is that right? To the front of the property. But definitely along the rear of the property, there's some room for additional landscaping, especially maybe for some understory type planting, some understory trees.
And one other question, Jared, do we know, I mean, are they planning to have egress off of this, out of the back of this? Do you know?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Are they planning to have an exit out of the back of the addition?
I'm not sure. I don't believe so. I believe Derek said there were no windows or doors proposed for this addition.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, hold on one second.
I'm Hal Fuller with FW Architects. We're working with Mark Haddon on this project. The addition will be used for because he needs 2 additional exam rooms, and so he's going to be renovating the existing building, and then where the existing kind of break room and his office is, which is at the rear of the building right now, will now basically push out to the new addition. So there will be a door coming out towards Evans Street, but there will not be a door coming out to the back of the property there. So that will be coming from the break room area. They are showing 2 windows. That was a drawing that we were given, done by the dental equipment company, that open off the rear of the property. And so one is in his office and one is in the basically the break room area. Again, we have not started that design, but that was just an original design that they had come up with. So, but there will be an exit door going out at the rear of the property out towards Evans Street. And that's just to meet code for egress.
Any other questions for Hal? Okay. We'll go ahead and close this case and have either a motion or discussion.
John, was your thinking remove the trees, but make a requirement that we add?
Exactly. I mean, it's, just my
No,
personal perspective, it just looks a little bare, with all the trees gone and just a building and, concrete. So certainly if there's room for additional landscaping, that would be my suggestion personally.
So if someone would like to make a motion and include that in it, that way we've got it covered.
I'll make the motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for the removal of the trees and the addition. But I'd also like to add that the applicant add additional landscaping to be approved by staff.
And just as maybe as a limit to that, or just in addition to, I think that the landscaping could occur both in the new 6.5 foot setback, as well as maybe some additional opportunities on the site itself. Doesn't have to be in that, only in that area.
I'll add that to my motion, yes.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay, our next case for public hearing is DRV 2021-38, a request for a certificate of appropriateness to construct an apartment building on the parcel located at North Coit Street and West Baruti Street, tax map number 90073-15-029, located in the D2 Downtown Overlay District. Staff?
Good afternoon. This is part of the new urban square development that the city is developing right across the street here on the block that's formed by North Baruti Street, or West Baruti Street on the north, West Evans on the south, North Coit on the east, and McQueen Street on the west side. And as you can see from this vicinity map, you can see the whole block, and then the portion of it that will be taken up by this apartment building. This is a close-up of it. Not only is this in the downtown overlay district, it is also in the food, artisan, and warehouse district. And it is zoned central business district. And this is a site photo. It is a vacant lot right now. The buildings that were there have since been demolished in preparation of this project. This is a site plan. It's a U-shaped building and will be in that upper corner. It will be part of a larger project which will include a parking deck, office space, a hotel, and possibly townhouses in the future as well. These are some elevations giving us some ideas of this building, and here's some more elevations of it more specifically. It will be consist of like fiber cement board and bat and panels, columns, siding, brick, metal railing, a metal roof, and vinyl windows. These are some more of the elevations for it. This will be all new construction, and it is the whole area has a variety of commercial and government buildings, and it is across the street from the railroad. The fiber cement board, paneling, vinyl windows, metal railing, and brick are the main materials used on the outside of the building. Specific colors have not been determined yet, but they will fall under the approved range of colors for the downtown district. And with your permission, staff will confirm the final colors. Or we can bring them back once they've determined those. That's your call. The property is currently vacant, and this will be a permanent structure along with parking and amenities to go along with it. The apartment building itself has 5 stories and is proposed to be about 57.5 feet high. And such heights are allowed in the overlay district with board approval. And according to the Unified Development Ordinance, multifamily buildings are to have no more than 24 units per floor. But this one is requesting 27 units each on the 2nd through 5th floors. And that may be permitted similarly as a design alteration with board approval. As you saw from the elevations, the doors and windows are symmetrical and orderly, and the windows and doors appear to have divided lights, and there is quite a bit of articulation along the building. The building will be pulled up near the street as required by the guidelines to provide an architecturally pleasing streetscape as well as pedestrian access. Parking will be to the rear of the parcel, actually interior to the parcel, in a parking garage. A small plaza will be on the front along North Court Street, again as recommended by the design guidelines, and a swimming pool will be provided in the interior of the U-shaped building. The roof itself is flat with parapets of varying heights to give the roof line visual interest. And landscaping will be added to buffer the parking areas and the building, and it will meet the requirements of the ordinance. And multifamily buildings in the central business district are required to provide a courtyard visible from the street or a plaza accessible from the sidewalk. And there is a small plaza area along the sidewalk on the North Court Street side. So it does meet all the requirements from the design guidelines. Most commercial structures in this area are 1 to 2 stories in height, but there are taller government buildings in the vicinity, and other proposed structures as part of this larger project will also be similar in height. And last, most buildings in the area are painted block or brick, and this will be well articulated and constructed of the fiber cement board, batten panels, metal railings, and brick to add interest to it. So that concludes staff's report.
Anyone have any questions of staff?
Is the, in between, of the Evans side's back of the project, the walkway, is that gonna be like a pedestrian walkway, or will cars be able to go up and down that? From McQueen to Coit?
Between McQueen and North Coit, I believe it's just for pedestrian access.
Okay.
Any other questions?
They're all apartments, correct? There's no retail space on the ground level or anything like that?
That's correct. I believe there's like a clubhouse kind of space on the first floor, but that would be for tenants' use.
Okay. If there's no other questions of staff, is anyone here to speak on this matter? Just approach your podium and state your name, please.
Good afternoon, I'm David Tuttle. Thank y'all for your time this afternoon. I apologize the design team couldn't be here, they had a conflict, but hopefully I can convey any concerns you might have, and I may be able to answer any questions you have. So if you have any, just let me know. Back to your question about whether we had any retail or not, we tried to make our amenity space and stuff read as though it was retail space to kind of fit contextually, but it'll probably generally be used for the apartment renters only, but it will articulate that way on the street.
I just have a quick question in regards to, I guess, how the units are actually separated. Is there sort of a, and I'm looking at this diagram here, is there a separation walk space in between a portion, like in the middle of the complex, you know?
Yeah, so there's an interior hallway, so it's double loaded on each side, and the actual apartment units are unit modules, if you will, that we've built, I guess, 3 times now. So we've kind of worked out the tweaks, and it seems like the market's very receptive to them. So we're just site adapting those to fit here on the configuration.
And do some of these units have like patio space behind them? Is
Yeah,
that correct?
so basically they all will have a balcony somewhere within them. The building will be elevated with interior corridor with limited access, so you'll have a key fob to get in and out. And We'll have a couple elevators. You know, with the population aging like it is and being 5 stories, it makes sense to have elevators, and that's been very well received. So that's our plan.
Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
I'd like to go ahead and close this hearing and put it up for discussion or a motion.
I have a question. I mean, this is an amazing project, and it'll be amazing for downtown, but it is such a large project, and it seems the plans are still evolving as far as what the final product is going to be. So Jerry, is there precedent for design approval at stages? Or I think it is so important what the final project ends up looking like.
Right, and at this time, all we're approving is the apartment complex
Right.
and not the entirety of the project, you know. Eventually, you know, you'll see the parking garage today as well, in the next presentation. But there's also going to be potentially some retail space, office space that's going in, as well as potentially some townhomes. And all those will be brought to the board prior to development for approval. This project in and of itself, I think if it changes substantially from what's included in this packet, it will definitely have to come back before the board. But if it stays in its current form and footprint, then it would be allowed to proceed. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Jerry, this might be for David, but does the apartments need the parking garage?
Yes. We did a number of parking studies along this block, so there's a number of surface parking spaces available to include on-street parking around the property, and the parking garage is also part of this, and it will serve not only the apartments but a future potential hotel, the retail space, and you know, all the commercial space that would be there. So we've done a number of parking studies, and the surface parking plus the parking garage would serve the entirety of the development.
And the parking garage is coming up next month?
It's actually going to be presented at the next case here.
Okay.
We have the plans for it. It's a government project, over $1 million, so we're presenting it for information only. The board doesn't have to take action on it, but we like to keep the board informed as to what's going on.
Great.
And I mean, we entertain any comment as well, and take it back to the design team.
Elaine, could you give us a list of the items that require in other words, that are out of quote-unquote compliance or recommendation that require our approval?
I think the only thing you're approving, I mean, everything is in compliance with the design guidelines. You're just,
I thought there were some things that I remember saying.
You mentioned something about room numbers. I mean,
oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, the number of rooms per floor, or apartments per floor. The ordinance recommends 24 per floor, and 4 of the 5 floors have 27. And the first floor, I believe, has 15 or 17.
And I noticed vinyl windows, is that technically not a material that requires our approval?
I guess it does, but on a new construction, it's,
And I really hope that we change that, because I think vinyl windows have a bad rap, and I think that they have become, in my opinion, an acceptable material that I wish wasn't in our design guidelines.
mm-hmm.
And Elaine, there's not a height issue, right? We're not voting on that.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Someone have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the project as submitted.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's a very impressive project, and I look forward to it being completed. It's approved, so congratulations. This next matter is for board consideration, as Jerry has discussed It's KR, it's meeting number DRB 2021-39, a request for a certificate of appropriateness to construct a parking deck on a parcel located at North McQueen Street and West Baruti Street, tax map number 90073-15-033, located in the D2 Downtown Overlay District. Staff?
Yes, sir. This is the parking deck that Jerry referenced as part of the urban square development. This one is more in the interior of that same block. As you can see here, it's constructed of portions of several parcels, and the buildings that are on there now, you approved for demolition about a year or two ago, so those will finally be removed to make room for this parking deck. And again, it is zoned Central Business District, which does permit for parking decks. Here's the site layout. You can see on the upper right corner is the apartment building we just looked at, and then the new parking deck will be interior to the lot. And then here are some elevations showing the parking deck itself. And I did not put the details in there, but it is, I believe it has 320 spaces, and it is also four levels. So it'll be a large parking deck, but it will be interior to the lot. And it will serve all of those, the apartments and any future development on that project.
How is it accessed?
That will be accessed off of McQueen Street as well as Baruti Street.
Did you mention how many parking spaces would be?
I believe it was 320.
320, okay. Jerry, is this a matter we have to vote on, or is it just something we just need to have?
Can you go back to the site plan?
Yeah, it's just for information purposes.
Okay.
Yeah. In the design guidelines, any government projects over $1 million, we review it, staff reviews it against the design guidelines and work with the entity to work through that process. But we do like to present it to the board for information and definitely receive any input on the project, especially in this still, I mean, even though we've received the designs and the layout for it, you know, there's still some room to take suggestions in.
There's no connectivity between the parking garage and the apartments, is there?
No cover.
Not covered.
Right,
Okay.
no cover.
It didn't look like it, I was making sure.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Okay, that's our last case today, guys. I'd like to thank everyone today for their attendance. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, so if you know a veteran, thank them for our service and possible sacrifice, and hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you on December 8th. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Chairman.